Hello students, this is Sheetal Nanda and you are watching Talent Zone. Today we will discuss the question and answer of the new chapter, that is the selfish giant. You have already know the story of this chapter. Now I will just start with the question and answer. The first question is, why would the children enjoy playing in the garden? Answer is, the children enjoyed playing in the garden because it was very beautiful. There were very lovely flowers which were like stars, and there were 12 peach trees that had delicate blossoms of pink and pearl in springtime and bore rich fruit in autumn. There were birds sitting on the trees, and they sang so sweetly that the children stopped playing to listen to them. They were very happy in the garden. So what is the question, children? ಹಾಗೆ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಪ್ಲೇಯಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಗಾರ್ಡನ್ ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ ದಿ ಸಿಲೆಬಸ್. ಆಸ್ ಪರ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ, ದಿ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ were very happy playing in the garden. ಯಾಕೆ? there were very lovely flowers and they were looking like the stars, and even there were 12 peach trees that had very delicate blossoms of pink, and in the springtime it was looking like a pearl, and even they were bearing very rich fruit in the autumn season. ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಡ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರ್ತಿತ್ತು. ದೇ ವರ್ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದಿ ಟ್ರೀ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇ ಸ್ಯಾಂಗ್ ಸೋ ಸ್ವೀಟ್ಲಿ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ the children even stopped the playing and start listen to these birds song. Thus we can say that the children were very happy in the garden. So next, move to next question. What did the north wind look like and what did he do? Answer is, the north wind was wrapped in furs. He rolled all the day the garden and blew the chimney pots down. Now the writer compares the north wind was like fur, white fur. ಹಾಗೆ ಆ ನಾರ್ತ್ ವಿಂಡ್ ಬ್ಲೋ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು, and he was roaring all the day about the garden, and he also blew the chimney pots down. Third question, what was the first sign of spring? Name the 4 visitors who finally left the giant's garden. Answer is, the first sign of the spring was sweet song of the linnet. The 4 visitors who finally left the giant's garden were east snow, frost, north wind and the hail. Fourth question, how do we know that the trees were very happy to have the spring back? Answer is, we know that the trees were very happy to have the spring back again because they were covered with blossoms and were gently waving their hands about the children's head. By seeing the story, we can know that the children's, when they came back, the trees were very happy because they got the spring back again when the children's were back to the garden, and even the trees were entirely covered with blossoms and they were gently waving their hands about the children's head. Next question, why was it still in one corner a winter of the garden? There was still a winter in one corner of the garden because the little boy could not reach up the branches of the tree and was wondering about it, crying bitterly. Next, do you think the giant's garden was the most beautiful garden? Give reason. The giant's garden was most beautiful garden because it not only had beautiful flowers and sweetly singing birds, but he had also lovely children who played there happily. So question is, do you think the giant's garden was beautiful? There are so many gardens around us, but how can we say that the giant's garden was very beautiful? Because there were very happily playing children in his garden. We can see not only the beautiful flowers or sweetly singing birds, but we can also see the children who were playing in his garden very happily. Thus, we can say that the giant's garden is the most beautiful garden. Next is reading comprehension. The spring has forgotten his garden, they cried, so we will live here all the year around. Who are we? We refers to the snow and frost. Why did the speaker to say that the spring had forgotten the garden? The speaker says that the spring has forgotten the garden because the tree did not blossom. There were no birds to sing and even no children playing there. What did the speakers do to the garden? The snow covered up the grass with her great white cloak, and the frost painted all the trees silver. Then they invited the north wind to stay with them, who came up wrapped up in the furs. He rolled all the day about the garden and blew the chimney pots down. Next question. I believe the spring has come at last, said the giant, and he jumped out of the bed and looked out. Why did the giant think that spring had come? The giant knew that the spring had come because the linnet had started singing outside his window. What did the giant see? The giant saw the children had crept in through a little hole in the wall and were sitting on the branches of the tree. In every tree he could see a child. The trees were covered up with blossoms, the birds were flying about and twittering with delight, and the flowers were looking up through the green grass and laughing. How did the giant celebrate the coming of the spring? The giant celebrated the coming of the spring by knocking down the wall and making his garden the children's playground forever. Now let's see, think and answer. The first question is, what emotions did the children experience throughout this story? Give reasons for your answer. The children were very happy when they were playing in the giant's garden. When he was away, they liked listening to the song of the birds on the trees. After the giant came back and ordered them to stay away, they became very sad. They had nowhere to play and wandered about the streets. Later, when they were able to enter the garden through a hole once again, and then giant turned unselfish and kind. They were filled with joy. They were now giant's friend and they had played with him in his garden after the school was over. Second question. How does the nature of the selfish giant change in the course of the story? Give an example from the story to support your answer. At the beginning of the story, the giant was very selfish and rude. He built a wall around his garden and did not want the children to play there. He thought that as it was his garden, he would not allow anybody else to play there. Later, he realized his mistake when he saw the spring had come in after the children entered the garden through a little hole in the wall. He felt sorry for being selfish and unkind. He then lifted the boy and put him up on the tree at the end of the story. The giant became very kind to all the children and then he played with them in the most beautiful garden and there were the most beautiful flowers he had. So these are the question and answers of the lesson The Selfish Giant.